Okay, we're recording. Good morning. So last time we did this, we talked about influencing. We talked about how our inner world creates our outer world and how we need to work on our roots, not our fruits, right? You guys remember that? So we're going to talk about the second influence. So the second influence of your conditioning. So the first one was verbal conditioning. This one is modeling. So think about what your parents or guardians were like when you were growing up. Were they spenders or savers? Were they investors? Were they good with their money? Were they risk takers? Were they conservative? Was money consistent in your household, or was it sporadic? Did it come easily, or was it a struggle? Think about what your family was like. And I know you've probably heard the saying, monkey see, monkey do, and humans are not far behind from that. And I know most of us would hate to admit this, but this also the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, is also very true. We are conditioned in so many ways, starting at a very, very young age from what we see and hear from our parents and from our surroundings. So I love this story that I pulled it out of the book because I think it's funny. And I just love it. So there's a wife cooking a ham, and she cuts off both ends of the ham. So she cuts off one side and then the other side. And the husband asks, "Why are you doing that?" And she says, I don't know. My mom just always did it. So they called her mom, and she said, "I don't know why I do that. My mom always did that. So the grandma always did it." So they called the grandma, and the grandma says, "Oh, I just did that because I didn't have a pan that fit the ham." So it's funny how it goes down the line. When you learn something, you may have no idea why you do these things, but it's because you learned it at such a young age. Um, so there's also a story in the book that I pulled out of the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, of this man who was so upset when he heard about how he has been conditioned to lose all of his money because he spent so much time, so much effort, so much money going to all of these seminars to learn about investing, to learn about business strategies, to learn all these different things to create more money. But he realized, holy smokes, it's been my family, it's been my conditioning this whole time. Hold on one second. My door keeps creaking in and open, and it was distracting me. Sometimes David peeks his head in, and it drives me insane. So anyways, he did all of these things, and felt like he couldn't change it because now he realized that it was all conditioning from his parents. But the cool thing is all that hard work. So if you're sitting here thinking like, oh my God, I've done all of these things to create a life for myself. I've done all these seminars. I've done all these business strategy interventions, and they're obviously none of them are going to help me. But that's not true, you guys. Your hard work isn't wasted. And now that you're actually working on your roots and working on all the things that can help you create success, you're going to skyrocket. You're going to skyrocket all the way there because now you have everything. You've got your inner and your outer world. Okay. So I just wanted to mention that. So there's so many sayings that we've heard nowadays that we all live by. And I'm going to say a few of them, and you're going to recognize them. But what we don't realize is a lot of these sayings are old, and they come from our grandparents and their grandparents who lived through the Great Depression and World War II, when things were like brutal with money. Everybody was struggling. And so some of the sayings, spend like crazy because money comes and goes and you might not have it again. I was taught this one by one of my parents big time. Every time they got money, it was gone. Like we were broke all the time because we spent our money on everything. It was crazy. You could easily lose it all. So spend it while you can. Save your money for a rainy day. Who has heard of that one? My granny used to say that all the time. She would say, make sure you have a savings account for, like, if you have something really bad happen to you, you can have an emergency fund. And I mean, which is not necessarily a terrible idea. But the thing is, why not save your money for a joyous and happy day instead of a rainy day? Because if you're saving for a rainy day, then guess what you're going to get? Rainy days. Okay. And this this was a big aha moment for me because my granny taught me that literally since I was like a tiny little child. She would say, save your money for a rainy day. So I always did. And I remember I was working, like I told you guys before, 3 to 4 jobs, saving my money. And I'd have like a good chunk of change saved up. Well, back then, to me, a good chunk of change was like $1,000 or $2,000. I'd be like, oh my God, I have. And I literally would save that all year, right? Like the $2,000, it took me a year to save. And anyways, every time I would get a decent amount, something would happen. My car would break down, or I would have to move and I'd have to pay a damage deposit, or like something crazy would come out of the blue and I would have to spend every last dime of my savings. And it was like, cool, restart. Like now I'm going to save for another rainy day. And I changed my mindset once I started learning about money mindset. And you guys, my rainy days, they still happen, but I'm not preparing for them and not creating it, if that makes sense. So my rainy days still happen, but not to the extent that they did before. I wasn't losing everything because that savings account was specifically for that. Does that make sense? So some of us will follow our parents and follow all of that. But then some of us will go the total opposite of our parents out of anger and rebellion, which I also did. This is so weird, you guys. Every single thing we learned in this chapter, I did all of it. And maybe you guys are going to agree with me. But some of us will go the total opposite of our parents out of anger or rebellion. So when we see our parents making financial mistakes, maybe they can't afford to put you in dance lessons or hockey or gymnastics or whatever you wanted to do as a kid because they're spending all the money on like dumb stuff. And you're not going to go to your parents and sit them down and say, you know what, you guys, you really need to focus on what you're spending your money. No, as a kid, you're going to run to your room and pound on your pillow and be like, you jerks, I'm not ever going to be like you. Screw you guys, I'm out of here. So that's what I did as well. So, and many people, especially if you come from a poor family, actually like almost every time, if you come from a poor family, you will most often this is actually a little bit of a good thing. You will have the drive and the motivation to never be like them. So you may go out and get rich. You may go out and make a ton of money, but there's an issue with that because their success comes from roots of anger and resentment, and they aren't usually happy. So, when you see those, like I was talking about in the last time, the movies of the rich guy being the villain, and people will like say that rich people are mean and unhappy and money can't buy you happiness. Well, I'm thinking you will come from people who take or make money out of anger and resentment because they will never be happy. Money can't replace that. And your higher self, so your subconscious mind, will eventually get sick and tired of being miserable and will link your unhappiness to money. So the unconscious mind will overspend, make bad investment choices, maybe get a financially disastrous divorce and lose everything, or they'll sabotage their success in some way. And then you'd think since they got rid of the money because they got rich and they're unhappy, since they get rid of the money, they're going to be happy, right? But that's not true because once they get rid of their money, now they're just broke and unhappy, which is that's the worst combination right there. So they got rid of the wrong thing. So if we can remember that our roots make our fruits, they get rid of the fruit. They get rid of the money when they should be getting rid of the anger, because the anger is the root. Because you get rid of the money, right? They're motivated, they're driven to not be like their parents. They're just gonna make more money, but then it's just gonna go away. They're just gonna keep getting rid of the fruits and the anger is gonna still be there. So if your motivation for money comes from a negative spot like anger, fear, or the need to prove yourself, the money will never bring you happiness. And that's where the saying comes in, you know, money can't buy you happiness. It won't if you are trying to make it from a source of negativity, because you can't solve any of these issues with money. So how many of you, put up your hands, would say that fear is your motivation to make money? So how many of you would say that security is your motivation to make money? So being secure in your life. I want to see hands. How do you think security? Well, the thing is I saw a bunch of hands go up. So security and fear are the exact same thing. That's the exact same root. So making money won't get rid of that fear. And again, I can relate to this and tell you guys my little story about this too. So making more money won't get rid of that fear, because first you're afraid of not making enough money or not having enough. Like, who's worked a bunch of jobs and gotten their bills and being like, oh my God, my paychecks won't even cover these bills. I'm going to have to use a credit card, or I'm going to have to, like, you're never in the green, right? That was me my whole life up until I found this business. And once we make changes, and we start making the money, it turns to the fear turns to, what if I lose it all? Oh my God, there's no way I'm actually worth this. I'm going to lose all this money. I'm going to make a bunch of money and I'm going to lose it. Or you're going to think, and this is crazy because I hear this from potential distributors all the time, is what if I get creamed in taxes? What if I make a bunch of money and then taxes come in and I have to pay taxes? I hear this from potential distributors all the time. I don't know about you guys, but it's a valid fear, right? It's a valid fear. But the thing is if you fix your roots and realize, if I make enough money, those kinds of taxes aren't going to matter. Right? Like for me, I remember, you guys, when I first started making good money with It Works, I was triple diamond, making like $10,000 to $15,000 every single month. And nobody really told me to save some of my paycheck. I mean, I should have known, but I wasn't good. I'm just not good at that kind of stuff, or I wasn't good. I am better now. But at that time, was not good at that kind of stuff. So tax time came around, and I owed like $18,000. And I was like, oh my God, found out I had a bad accountant, so he fixed it. But I still owed like $12,000 in taxes. And I remember just bawling and being like, oh my God. And I called my dad, and I was like, I don't know why I called him, because he's literally never helped me out with anything when it comes to money. But I'm thankful, because he makes a ton of money, but he like wants me to learn the hard way. I don't know. Anyways, so I called him and I was like, oh my God, I've got this $12,000 bill. I don't know how I'm going to pay it. Like, I'm going to have to spread it out. And he was like, why don't you just make more money? And I was like, okay, well, fine. You're right. And guess what? I got to work. That's the cool thing with this business, is I got to work and I made sure my paychecks got bigger. I paid it off, and then I was smarter. I learned my lesson. I learned a hard lesson. I paid off. I started putting money away for my taxes, right? And now it doesn't matter to me. I don't even think about that. I just know that I'm going to be able to pay it off. But for some people, especially when you don't make that kind of money, that kind of bill could, like, even owing a couple $100s in taxes can like sink you, right? So that is something that I get with potential distributors. And now that you guys are doing this course, you're going to be able to better talk to potential distributors about this kind of stuff. You're going to be able to see, oh, they have a root of fear. I know how to get through to them, right? So that's what's really cool, is that you guys are gaining the knowledge to be able to better talk to people in this business about this. So another thing that people are another negative route that people are motivated by is to prove themselves that they are good enough. I bet you everybody will put up their hand when I ask, hey, have you ever had that feeling of you're not good enough? Like, all of us can say, yeah, that's happened too. And some of us, you guys, even myself, I have to check myself sometimes with this one. No amount of money will ever make you good enough. And again, I had this when I was working hard to build a better income for my family through this business. It was like I wanted to prove to people. I was bullied so bad in high school. Like if I told you some of the things that people did to me, you guys would like throw up and walk me to a therapist's house and make me live there. But you know, like, so I always had this feeling that I needed to prove myself, that I wasn't, you know, this person that I felt like I was. So I had to not, I was like wanting to prove to other people, but really I was just wanting to prove to myself that I was better than what I was made out to be. So that, again, no amount of money will ever make you good enough, because guess what? When I made that kind of money, I still felt like crap about myself. I still felt like that. And having said that, I'm just going to rewind a little bit. All of this information you're not going to change overnight. Okay. Like this is something you have to work on every single day. And that's why, you know, the author of this book, T. Harv Eker, says this should be a book you read every single month, because you're going to forget. You're going to forget, and you're going to go back to your old habits, and you are just going to continue doing the same things. In order to change your roots, this is something you have to work on every single day. And it's hard. It can be painful, especially if you've been through stuff and you have to go work through things. It's hard, but I promise you it's worth it to work on your roots every single day. So these people who are motivated to prove themselves to other people or just to their inner self, these people are the ones that will call themselves high achievers, driven. They'll be the red personalities, the really red ones, those aggressive red ones. They're determined. And all of these traits are incredible, because those are obviously going to push them to be high achievers and to get there. But again, it's all coming from a negative root. So it's not going to mean anything. It's going to come out in wrong ways. They're going to lash out. They're going to, you know, have breakdowns because they're not going to feel good enough. They're going to get imposter syndrome, which is something that I struggled with really, really bad. And I've heard so many top leaders have struggled with this when they first came into success. And if you haven't heard of imposter syndrome, you need to. If once you become successful, I want you guys to be aware of it, because you guys are all going to be successful in here. But maybe even if you've just gone ruby, maybe you get that paycheck, or you just went diamond and you get that paycheck and you start thinking, I don't deserve this. Like, the It Works police are going to come get me and they're going to take all my money away because I don't deserve any of this. I'm not a good leader. And you start saying these things to yourself. And again, that is just something you have to work on through your roots, and realize that you are good enough. You do deserve this, and that you can go even further than that. You deserve more than that. So again, no amount of money will ever ease the pain of your inner wounds. They'll never make everything or anything in your life good enough. And remember, your inner world creates your outer world. You're going to hear me say that so many times. So if you feel like you're not good enough, you will validate that belief. You will make up scenarios. You will create scenarios. You will, you know, you'll create that reality somehow. You will create that reality. You will, you know, you will lose relationships with people. You will just like create this reality to go back to your old ways, just to prove to yourself that you're not good enough. It's crazy what your mind can do. But once you start practicing gratitude and becoming grateful for all the things that you do have, and believing that you have enough, that you have more than enough, I should say, you have plenty, you have a ton, the universe will start giving you an abundance of everything. Why? Because you created that root. So now your root is you have abundance, you have a ton of things, you have everything that you could ever want. And that will just be your natural way. Like we were talking about before, when you raise your thermometer, you will go to that level, but you'll only ever go to the level that your thermometer is raised. So if you're down here, you'll only ever get to your potential of being down here and being zero. So you have to raise it, and it's uncomfortable. It's scary, but I promise you, once you do it and start taking those little steps every single day to fill that void, you will get there. Your thermometer will raise, and that will be your natural way of thinking. So for example, you guys, when I first started this business, I was brand new, had no clue what I was doing. My thermometer level was almost zero. I was struggling to pay bills. Everything was on a credit card. I was $60,000 in debt. I had a crappy old vehicle. I was just not happy. And that's where my thermometer was. I didn't think that I could ever bust through that and have any more, because in my head, I was like, you're a high school dropout. You don't have anything. You're not special. I had all these thoughts about myself. And as I continued to, once I joined this business, you hear that people say this all this time, but this business saved my life. It changed me into a completely different person. And once I started working on my roots, didn't happen overnight, okay? I was motivated by fear. I was motivated to prove myself, and I was rebelling. So I was angry and I just wanted to get there. Did it drive me? I got to triple diamond in less than a year. So yeah, it got me there. But once I was there, I had to go through a lot of crap. Okay, I had to go through a lot of emotions, and I had to change all my roots to stay there, because guess what? I went to triple diamond and I lost it. I lost it. I went all the way down to diamond because my brain started saying, oh, this is uncomfortable. You don't deserve $10,000 a month. This is not you. So I lowered myself and I went right back down to what my cap was, which was $2,000 a month. I went right back down. And once after, I had to start really finding that, and I had to raise my thermometer. And now, you guys, 5 years later, my thermometer is, if I make less than $25,000 a month, I'm like, whoa, check yourself, Karina. Like, that's my thermometer. That's where I've raised myself. It was hard. It was scary, because when I first told myself, Karina, you're going to make $25,000 a month, that voice in the back of my head was like, you are ridiculous. There's no way that you can do that. I had to fight through that every single day until finally it just went away. Once in a while, I still have to fight it. I still have to fight that voice. But you guys, I promise, if you just set your level, you will work up to it. And I know it's scary because you look at the big picture, and it's like, you think how do I get rid of all these negative roots? How do I get rid of all of this? You can't think of it that way. You just have to start. You just have to start and take those tiny little steps every single day towards that goal. And I promise it will work out. I promise you. So you guys, like I said, once we start, now that we're recognizing what our negative, because I'm sure we all have them. I'm just going to go and assume you guys all have the negative roots like I did. Maybe you don't, but just assuming you are, when we start to unlink those fear motivations, then we can introduce new links. We can introduce joyous purpose, contribution. We can start introducing all these little links. And you guys, I started doing that by once I started realizing I need to change my roots, I started putting aside money for things that gave me a lot of joy, so that I could start linking money with happiness. So, and money with contribution. I started sponsoring a child in Brazil. We start doing that. I'm sponsoring two, actually, one in Honduras and one in Brazil. So it's $20 a month each. So it's $40 a month. But it's I think of that all the time. I get their little letters, and it just brings me so much happiness that I'm able to do that. And, like I said, try to find those little ways that you can link your money with total joy and happiness, because then you're going to start creating those. And again, it's not going to happen overnight, and you have to take the action to actually do it. Don't just say you're going to do it and not do it and procrastinate. Really take the action and do it. And you'll start feeling yourself changing. You'll start seeing the relationship with money change. And then you'll start feeling and seeing the money going into your bank account. Okay, so get out your notebooks, and we're going to do a little exercise. Okay. So these are your steps for change. So the first one is your awareness. Okay, so write down awareness. So consider the ways of being and habits each of your parents had around money and wealth. Write down how you may be identical or opposite to either of them. I'm going to say it again. Consider the ways of being and habits each of your parents had around money and wealth. Write down how you may be identical or opposite to either of them. So how are you the same? What habits do you have the same as your parents that maybe you just realize now? And in what ways are you opposite? So I'll share one of mine. Don't tell my dad I talk so much about him, okay? But my dad, he has always been a driven, motivated guy. And he has made so much money in his life. Like he is insane. He's a workaholic. He gets what he wants. He's very like, but after doing this course, I realized I'm like, whoa, he has some serious anger issues and he needs to fix those. But his thing is he would make all this money and spend it, or he'd like give it away to his brothers and like just give his money away. And I even notice him now, he still does it. And I did the same thing. When I went triple, I spent all the money. I told you guys that before. I was like making $15,000, 10 to 15 a month. And literally by payday, I was broke. Like I'm talking like dollars in my bank account, or like it was bad. But I changed that, right? Like I was just spending it. Like I didn't like, it was like, okay, I got it. Now I got to spend it because I might not get it back again. So that was a big awareness. Also that none of my parents invested their money. My dad is like a hardcore farmer, and I don't even know if he had a bank account for the longest time because he thinks that the government is going to steal his money and find out where he lives and come take his land and take his animals and his kids. And yeah. So I like didn't realize, but I kind of had that. Like I thought he was silly, but like I think I realized I did still have that root too, where I was like, oh, investments are stupid. The banks are just trying to steal your money and like all this crazy stuff. So that was a route I didn't invest. And now I'm learning how to invest my money and so that I can, you know, one day invest thousands, millions and be able to make money on interest, right? So there's all these things that I'm like, okay, I never knew that before. And now that I'm changing my roots, I'm learning. So if you guys want to share in the chat, I'll open it. I had it closed. Same thing, Melissa. Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys all agree with me. That's funny. Okay, so second one. So now that we're aware, we need to be aware in order for us to change, right? So understanding. So write down the effect that this had on your financial life. Like what way, in the ways that you were same or opposite of your parents, what effect did this have on your financial life? So if you guys want to share, if anybody wants to share, I kind of just said all that in the one. If anyone wants to share in the chat how this affected, I would love that so we can share. Jessica, I'm the same as my mom, setting a financial goal, chip away at it, no matter how long it takes, pre-planning and setting a year plus plan. Jessica, I can totally see you being like that. The planner. Love it. Naomi, yes, I can do that for sure. Okay, so the last one, disassociation. So can you see this way of being is only what you learned and isn't you? Can you see that you have a choice in the present moment to be different? So can you see that? And again, you guys, I always feel guilty for buying something I really want. For example, a nice car. Oh my gosh, yes. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. I did too. I remember because I always drove crappy cars because that's what I was just taught. Like you don't live more than your means, like don't have more than you should, I guess. And I remember the very first time I went to go in and buy a truck and I was like shaking. Every ounce in me was trying to tell me I couldn't do it. Even though I made 10, 15 grand a month, my thought of like, I was like, no, I felt guilty. I almost didn't want to tell people that I bought it because I felt bad. It was so weird. Oh man, so that is very relatable. So you girl, you make your it works check enough and you go get a nice car because I'm telling you, heated and cooled seats are amazing and all of the awesome features in a nice vehicle is amazing. And this was what I loved was I wasn't broken down on the side of the road anymore. So that was cool. I struggle saving money. Once we save up a good amount, I feel the need to spend it. Yes, like I have to buy happiness and it never works. And it's caused us to never have money saved up, which leads to guilt and frustration because we don't have a savings to help us lead us to a more comfortable life. Oh my gosh, who can relate with that? That is like, oh my gosh, yeah, I think so many people do that. But I wonder, Nicole, what the root is, maybe needing to prove yourself, but I guess trying to have to buy happiness, and we can't do that. We have to be happy inside. And the thing is, once you start making more money, I know this is very obvious, but once you start making more money, you get to save more money. So that's really cool. And that's why we're all in this business, right? We want to make more money and saving is everything. They talk about that. That's what I love about this company too, is they talk so much about saving your money. They talk about debt-free and debt-free sexy all the time. And I love that. Angie, you do not feel guilty. You flaunt that purse and you show it off. I want to see a picture of it on your wall today. That's awesome. Oh, Morgan, yeah. Yes, I hate buying stuff for myself, but love buying for other people. I always feel guilty when I buy myself anything, even a haircut. So weird, but I can spend everything on others. Are you a mom? Like, I feel like that's a mom thing to say. I know she's not, but that's like a mom thing to say. Oh my gosh, but it's so true. I feel like that is just such a common thing. You guys, we really need to learn how to love ourselves. Like, that's the thing. I want you guys to get off this Zoom. And I know we just wrote down the awareness and understanding and disassociation, but if you have time, or even throughout your day, I really want you guys to think about what we've talked about today and really understand why you are the way that you are. And I really want you to work on the last one, disassociation, like disassociating yourself from those feelings. And instead of feeling that guilt, feeling the fear, feeling that resentment, anger, or the need to prove yourself, whatever your roots are, probably all 5 of them, because that's what mine was. Disassociate yourself from those feelings and fill it with happiness. Think of all the things that the money is going to buy for you that's going to make your life better. Okay, without the guilt. Don't have any guilt. Like, dream big. Don't have guilt for thinking about a nice house or a nice car or the purse you want or the hairstyle you want or the nails you want or the lashes you want. Like, whatever you want, don't feel guilty for it. Think of it all. Write it all down. What are all the things that your money can buy for you that is going to make your life better? Are you going to be able to do more with your kids? maybe you could like, I know COVID, but let's pretend COVID's not happening because maybe it'll go away if we pretend. But like, maybe you could like pack up all 4 of your kids and go on a $15,000 trip to Greece. Like, you don't feel guilty about thinking all those things because that's incredible. And you know how we talked about before, society and movies and all that will make rich people out to be unhappy, bad people. There are so many families that I know that even that I grew up with, or like people that I actually was talking to a girl, one of David's buddy's girlfriends, who is absolutely incredible. I love her so much. And we were talking about our past, and she was like, oh my God, my family, like they're rich, okay? Like stinking rich. And she was telling me about all the trips they went on as kids, how they have a cabin at this lake and they have family reunions there every summer. Her parents, I've met her parents, are the sweetest, kindest, most amazing people in the world. And I'm listening to her childhood. I'm like, God, I would love, and I can't wait to be able to offer that to my children. Like, I'm so excited that I was able to get over my fears and get over my laziness and get over all those things that were holding me back from making the kind of money that I make now, because now I'm able to give that to my children, right? So I want you guys to really think about all these things, all the things you really want, and disassociate the guilt and disassociate yourself from all of those bad feelings and start getting excited. Because guess what? That's going to make you excited to work. You're going to be like, okay, I can message 50 people today. That's easy. Because if messaging 50 people is going to get you $10,000 monthly income in a few months, like, it's worth it, right? So you guys, let's do this today. Let's dream it up, dream up all the good stuff, and let's get to work, okay? Because boom season is going to come in the spring. For those of you who are new, boom season is amazing. That's when you're going to make all your money, but it starts now. Your boom season starts now because you have to get all of those seeds. You have to plant all those seeds. You have to talk to the people so that when it does come around, you're going to have a bunch of people sign up on your team. So anyways, I love you guys. I've talked way over my limit, but I just got really excited. I love you all so much, and I will see, what day is it today? Thursday. I will see you guys on Monday. Bye.